Is your newborn baby pretty difficult to settle to sleep? Ugh, I know exactly how you feel. When I had my son, who is my second child, I was determined to avoid the mistakes I made with my eldest, where I would unknowingly let her get really overtired during the day. I just had no idea about sleep. With my son, in my endeavor to completely avoid that, I spent hours trying to get him to sleep as a newborn baby, and he would just lie there staring at me awake with these big blue eyes the entire time. I shed so many tears. I was so frustrated. I would have my 2-year-old right outside my son's bedroom door needing my attention, needing some time with me. And I remember being trapped in his room, so frustrated. He wouldn't go to sleep if I fed him, if I rocked him, no matter what I did. He wouldn't go to sleep during the day. It would take over an hour sometimes to just get him to sleep, for him to then only sleep 45 minutes to an hour, and we'd start all over again. Oh, I totally know how you feel. And today I am answering your sleep question. My 5-week-old takes up to an hour to fall asleep. Is there something I can do? And you will be so relieved to know that yes, there is something that you can do. So stay tuned while I explain all about the mistakes that I made and the things I now know. I'm Nicky. I'm one of the founders of a company called Little Ones. We specialize in infant and toddler sleep through our comprehensive online sleep programs. As mothers, we really understand the emotional and physical toll that sleep deprivation can have on you and on your family, which is why we're so pleased we've been able to help over 200,000 families worldwide achieve better sleep. We love hearing how we've been able to help these families through sleep regressions, nap transitions, night waking, poor napping, unsettled babies, and more. We would love to help you and your family achieve better sleep. Make sure you visit our website www.little.ones.co and see if we're the right fit for you. Alright, let's talk about your 5-week-old baby and why it's taking so long for them to fall asleep. The good news is that it's actually a really simple fix. It's just about understanding what your baby's sleep needs are at this age and at any age. Once you know what their sleep needs are, what their biological sleep needs are, then you're away laughing, and I promise you their sleep will get better. The issue that I was having all those years ago with my son was that I was putting him to bed too soon. As I said, I was trying to avoid overtiredness, and there's a lot of publicity about overtiredness. Everybody's heard about it, how overtiredness causes poor sleep, how it causes fractured naps and really fragmented night sleep and a cranky baby, and I experienced that the first time around, and I did not want to do that again. In my enthusiasm to avoid overtiredness, I entered into the territory of undertiredness, and this actually is just as bad. So what was happening in my case, and what might well be happening for you, is I was putting my son down to bed way too soon. I was giving him, at sort of 5-6 weeks old, no more than an hour awake time, because that's the information that was available to me out there at the time. Everyone was saying don't let them stay awake for longer than an hour. So I would get him up, feed him, change him, have a super quick awake period, swaddle him, put him in his room, and do everything, literally everything I could to get him to sleep within that hour. And like I said, he would just look at me with his big baby blues, and I mean, my heart should have been melting, but I had tears running down my face because I was so frustrated. I didn't know why this baby wasn't sleeping. Half an hour to an hour later, he would drift off to sleep. I now know, with all of the sleep knowledge that I have now, that he just wasn't tired enough to go to sleep. It's as simple as that. The awake period I was aiming for was far too short for his age. If I'd actually put him in bed after an hour and a half to 2 hours of awake time, he probably would have drifted off to sleep like that on his own, without the frustration, without the stress, without the tears, and he probably would have napped better as a result. So this is the very first place I want you to start with your baby and trying to figure out why they're taking so long to settle. What are the awake periods that you're aiming for. If they are an hour or less, you need to push that out. You need to be extending out those awake periods. It would be like my 9-year-old coming home from school and me trying to put her to bed for the evening at 4 p.m. She's not gonna go to bed at 4 p.m. because her bedtime's 7:30. Like, she's just not tired enough. And it's no different for your little one. If they're not tired enough, they won't go to sleep. Simple as that. Now, without knowing you and your particular situation, you might also be falling into the flip side of undertiredness, which is, of course, overtiredness. Although in an overtired baby, I would expect them to be a bit easier to settle, but they're probably grouchy throughout that entire settling period. If your baby is overtired, which means if they've had too much awake time between their naps, they are also going to be hard to settle to sleep. So if your baby is awake for more than 2 hours at this age, from one nap to the other, then you need to trim back their awake time and start settling them to sleep a bit earlier. Definitely well within the 2-hour mark. A couple other reasons it might be taking your little one at this age a long time to settle is hunger, wind, and their sleep environment. Let's start with hunger. A hungry baby will not settle to sleep. It's as simple as that. So I would be with your baby, if you've got the awake times perfect and you're confident that that's okay, I would definitely be considering hunger as an option. And this could be that it's been too long since their last feed. It could be that they're not feeding very effectively if they're breastfeeding and actually even bottle feeding, and that could be because of an undiagnosed or even diagnosed tongue tie or a lip tie or a cheek tie. It could be that they're not feeding effectively because they have acid reflux and the feeding is hurting them. Perhaps there's something going on with their latch or the milk supply. So if your awake windows are spot on, definitely the next thing I would be looking at would be hunger. And if you think that there is something going on hunger-wise or feeding-wise for your baby, I would recommend that you get in touch with a lactation consultant or your GP or a pediatrician and get that sorted, because, like I said, a hungry baby will not settle and sleep no matter what you do. Another contributing factor and linked to hunger is wind. Wind in babies this age is a big deal and it's often underrated. Wind can cause so many issues with your little one in terms of their settling and sleep. I would recommend that you aim for 3 good burps per feed. So if you're feeding your little one right before you're trying to pop them in bed, it's likely that they just haven't got all their wind up. And so I would actually recommend feeding them a little way from their bedtime so that they've got enough time between the feeding and the napping for you to make sure that all their wind has come up. A baby who has wind and is uncomfortable will be difficult to settle to sleep. The last thing we can quickly look at is the environment in which you're settling your baby to sleep. As your baby grows and becomes a lot more alert, their little eyes are wandering around everywhere, looking at all the interesting things. Their ears are picking up on all these incredible new sounds. It's stimulating and it's not helping the sleep situation. If you're trying to put your baby to bed in a bright, stimulating room or environment, then at this age, they're probably starting to be a little bit too alert for that. And they're just looking at what's going on. From around 6 to 8 weeks onwards, what can really assist your little ones settling and napping is sleeping them in a very, very dark room. Not only does that help eliminate any light stimulation, but it also, interestingly, encourages the production of the hormone melatonin in your little one's body. Melatonin is the hormone that assists them with sleep. So why not work with their biological sleep drive rather than against it, right? So pop them in a really dark room, crank up the white noise, and this will just help block out those startling sounds that might be stimulating or alerting your baby. Swaddling your baby at this age is a really, really useful tool. Swaddling replicates the tight feeling of being in the womb, and it helps your baby feel secure and safe, and it stops them from flailing around and from waking themselves up with their own crazy limbs. So a dark room, white noise, and a swaddle, really useful sleep tools from this age onwards. Right, if you've got all of that ticked off, if you've got the appropriate awake time, you know your baby's not hungry, their sleep environment is spot on, then we possibly need to start looking at some other underlying, far less common factors, such as various health conditions, reflux, as I mentioned, a tongue tie or something which could be causing colic, an intolerance or an allergy, but these are very few and far between. So I would definitely be looking at those other factors, which are relatively easy fixes first. If you'd like some help getting the awake times sorted for your little one at this age, we have all of the information available for you inside our sleep program. We've got the ideal awake times from 2 weeks old right through till your child stops napping altogether, somewhere around 3. So you never have to think about it or second guess your little one's sleep needs. Let us do the thinking for you. We would love you to become a part of our little one's community so we can work together to help improve the sleep of your little one and of your whole family. Let me know in the comments below how your little ones are sleeping. Are they struggling to fall asleep and settle? And do you have any questions for us, because we would love to answer them for you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can continue to make loads more videos just like this one. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.